Good evening and welcome to News Review. This week, the first ever intentional and non-functional engraving made by a Neanderthal was found in Gorham's Cave. The results of this discovery were published in a major international journal, and the news did raise media interest across the world.
The chance discovery was made 2 years ago in the summer of 2012 at the very back of Gorham's Cave. What seemed unusual at first sight turned out to be the first ever intentional and non-functional engraving made by a Neanderthal some 39,000 years ago. It's the first time anywhere in the world that an engraving has been demonstrated by someone other than a modern human. The series of parallel lines measure at around 15 centimeters wide and can be compared to modern behavior.
I remember 2 years ago when Francisco Giles called me. He'd seen some marks on the cave wall, and we didn't really want to think what it was. You come up with all kinds of things, somebody's done this or whatever, but it can't be what we think it is. And then the realization starts to grow, and you begin to get very, very nervous about this, and you start saying, all right, we need independent opinions, we need analysis, we need this or the other. And that went on for about a year. And then when we felt comfortable, we decided then, right, we need to bring in one of the leading specialists, if not the leading specialist. And I called Francesco, he's a good friend, he's in Italy on holiday, he works in France, and he jumped on a plane and came to Gibraltar because he knew I wouldn't call him for nothing. And when he saw it, my nervousness again was, what's he going to, is he going to say, why have you wasted my time? And he looked and he pondered. And he started to say to me in his own way, not how great it was or whatever, but okay, this is what we're going to do, this, that, and I say, why is it? Yeah, because it is, and that was fantastic.
Experiments have been carried out and the engraving analysed over the past 2 years. With the use of high-resolution microscopes, X-ray refraction and chemical analysis in the cave, the excavation team has explored how the layers on the rock were formed, leaving very little doubt to its authenticity. Various experiments were also carried out using real Neanderthal tools from Gorham's Cave itself.
We started to make the engraving on a similar rock, and we found that it was clearly intentional. I mean, we know it was always done in one direction. It took 60 strokes to do one of the grooves, over 200 to do the whole engraving. We thought, right, can somebody say it's been done while they're cutting for meat? We did it with meat and skin. And you cannot control the groove, you cannot do it. We tried to cover every possible question by experimenting and by using laboratory analysis and scanning electron microscope, the whole range.
Over time, the crisscross pattern can be further analysed, and it may be possible to find out if the Neanderthal that made the engravings was right or left-handed, or, for example, standing up or kneeling down whilst making the strokes. But what else does this new information teach us about Neanderthals?
It brings them even closer. This was, if you like, what everybody threw at us when we were saying Neanderthals are quite similar to us, and we even know we exchanged genes. They couldn't have been that different. But they said, yeah, but they didn't have these higher mental faculties. By showing that they can, at least one individual produced an engraving, which was clearly non-functional. It's abstract. It shows higher mental faculties and puts them on a par with their own ancestors.
We describe it as non-functional but intentional. So how else can we compare this to? Can we compare it to art or geometry?
This is where we leave it open for others to decide, because it is down to interpretation. And we deliberately didn't want to go down that far. I think a lot of people will look and see art in that, quite possibly. It is geometric, but a lot of modern human art later has similar characteristics. It has that kind of geometry to it. A lot of these early art forms seem to have that. The naturalistic paintings of animals so on seem to come later. It's possible that it's a geometrical design. It's possible it's art. I'd leave it for others. I mean, I think we're going to get a lot of interpretations of this, but clearly what it does show is the higher mental cognitive capacities of the Neanderthals, which are similar to ours. And that is big. That's a first.
The discovery also coincides with work being undertaken to have Gorham's Cave ready for a World Heritage Site nomination next year, and the finding will no doubt affect the bid.
Hopefully in a positive way, I think, because we've been working at showing the outstanding universal value of the site, and this and the results we presented just over a month ago on the exploitation of birds make the cave unique. There is nothing There's no other cave in the world that has something like that. So therefore, I would think that those looking at the application should take that into account very seriously.
The paper, an engraving made by Neanderthals in Gibraltar, has now been published in the National Academy of Sciences USA and is open access for anyone to read online. The engraving will also be further discussed at the Gibraltar conference later on this month.
Those of you who are archaeologists would mean a lot, but up there, still in situ, in the cave.
Major structural works have been completed at Mount Alvernia with the refurbishment of the balconies on the west side of the building and the subsequent removal of the scaffolding that's been up for 12 years.
Mount Alvernia's west-facing side has been covered in scaffolding for over a decade. Now, after a refurbishment program that's improved the building both structurally and aesthetically, residents are finally able to enjoy the beautiful views from the comfort of their balconies.
What we've done is we've refurbished the west wing of Mount Alvernia. We've completed the balcony stage of the works. We'll shortly be installing awnings on the balconies, and we've undertaken works to a fault that we had in the retaining wall of the building as well. So what we did was we've had the same contractor undertake all the work, so obviously then that means that we've had better value for money. These are works that have been pending for a very long time. As you probably know, this building has been covered in scaffolding for approximately 12 years now. So it means that the residents have been deprived of this wonderful view for that long.
The government says the balconies had become so dilapidated they were actually being supported by the scaffolding, which had to be replaced twice itself over the years. The balconies now boast anti-slip surface flooring and higher, safer rails, as well as being glass-fronted for greater visibility. It's the latest stage in a process that's also seen the refurbishment and painting of the building's facade.
Not only do these works represent an investment in the fabric of the building, but it also represents an investment in the quality of life of the residents who live here, because you cannot underestimate the therapeutic value of the views and that they can now enjoy. For example, we have such beautiful sunsets in Gibraltar, and that's something that the residents in Mount Alvernia have been deprived of for a very, very long time, and I'm very proud to be able to allow them to be able to enjoy that once again.
The works have already had a fantastic response from the staff and residents.
Aquí estoy muy contenta, muy bien cuidada, son todos muy buenos y no es porque lo digo porque están ellos delante. A que lo que hace falta es más ayuda.
¿Y qué te parece los cambios que se han hecho?
Oh, esto es precioso. Esto es 5-star hotel.
The refurbishment schedule has seen various types of construction work carried out together on the elderly care home. The government says this has provided value for money, with the full cost of the works to be made public after the final phase, the addition of the awnings.
The new Anglican Bishop of Gibraltar has spoken about the importance of the church building a sense of community. Dr. Robert Innes has taken over from Dr. Geoffrey Rowell, who retired last year. Since 2005, Dr. Innes has been the Chancellor of the Pro-Cathedral of Holy Trinity in Brussels. He was installed this week at the Cathedral of the Holy Trinity. Dr. Robert Innes was educated at Cambridge University and is an engineering graduate. As he told us, offered for ordination at 29, resulting in a major shift in priorities and a new direction in which to take his life. In 2005, he moved to the Diocese of Gibraltar in Europe to become senior chaplain and Chancellor of the Pro-Cathedral of the Holy Trinity in Brussels. He was also in 2012 appointed chaplain to the Queen. A man very much with experience in helping many communities and recognizing the changing needs of people, his experiences in Brussels will have no doubt been fruitful.
I think that building a sense of community is of the essence. The church has to be a spiritual home for those who come to us in all kinds of circumstances. We minister to people who usually have English as their first or second language, but in very different circumstances. Some who find themselves away from home because they've chosen to be in a different country, others who are refugees. And our aim as a church is to build community across across barriers and boundaries, and to create this sense of being a spiritual home for all who come.
Today was his first visit to Gibraltar, and he looks very much forward to working with the community here.
I've only been here a few hours, and it's been a great pleasure to arrive. Huge sense of arrival, of course, at the airport, seeing the rock from the skies, and to see the different architectural styles, to be here in this cathedral for the first time. So I'm hugely excited by the occasion, and looking forward to ministering to this community, as indeed to the many other communities across Europe in our diocese.
Gibraltar, of course, is known for being a very multicultural society, home to many faiths. What sort of influence will you bring to this community? In fact, you've been working with so many people from many different faiths.
Well, just in terms of relating to other faiths, for the last 2 or 3 years I've been president of the Belgian Council of Religious Leaders, so working with people from other traditions and faiths has been something that I very much enjoyed doing. And I think that is one of the great opportunities for the Church in 2014, is to engage with other traditions and to show how people of faith can work together in the cause of peace. But I'm looking forward to this major transition point in our diocesan life as the diocese welcomes me as its new bishop, and as I commit to serve and lead this diocese as best I can.
Dr. Innes says his job as a bishop will be to build links and bridges between the different parts of a huge European diocese. He was commissioned and consecrated at Canterbury Cathedral in July this year. Married with 3 daughters and a son, he believes in a spiritual dimension to life and aims to help people find true fulfillment and live a more abundant life. He will be based in Brussels and work closely with the diocesan office in London. One of 2 people arrested last week on suspicion of having drugs at number 6 Convent Place pleaded guilty in court to possession and possession with intent to supply cocaine. 39-year-old Christian Ferrari of Medview Terrace, Catalan Bay, was charged with 1 count of possession of a preparation containing approximately 4.7 grams of cocaine and 1 count of supplying approximately 1 gram of cocaine. He's also charged with possession of 30 diazepam tablets. Mr. Ferrari has started a drug rehabilitation program and has been granted bail in the sum of £1,000. Meanwhile, in answer to GBC questions, the Royal Gibraltar Police has confirmed that a police officer has been suspended and an internal disciplinary investigation is underway. And we'll be back with more of this week's stories after this break.